Welcome back, Nostalgia Hunters, to another episode of Is It Cool or Just Nostalgia? It's been a while, we know, but we're back at it and back on the saddle, and we've decided to make some changes this time. We were getting a little tired of listening to ourselves talk for over an hour and a half. So
you probably were too.
You probably were too. And we decided that what we're going to do is change things up just a tiny bit. And instead of doing a topic for every single person during the episode, we're just going to do one topic per episode. But this time, what we're also going to do is line up some episodes that are in a kind of certain theme. Mm-hmm. And what we're starting with is a duo of spy movies. The first one, to match up with the episode 007, we're going with GoldenEye. And then next episode will be on Mission Impossible. So, without much further ado, let's get right into it.
This is my first time watching GoldenEye.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I've never watched it before. I've seen World Is Not Enough and Tomorrow Never Dies and the other ones with Pierce in it, but this is the first time watching it for me. And this
Had you seen any prior to the Pierce Brosnan ones, or did you just start with like Tomorrow Never Dies?
Really, it's been a long time, but yeah, because my dad was a fan, so I saw like the Sean Connery, Timothy Dalton was before him. Roger Moore ones and all that. So there's, the real campy ones.
Yeah.
Where he runs on the crocodiles, but and there's someone's called Pussy Galore, like really campy.
To be fair, in GoldenEye there is Miss On the Top.
On the Top, yeah.
That's the stuff they do in every one of the movies.
I'm also going to say,
and her move is to be on the top.
Well, right? This was my first time seeing GoldenEye as well, and that name went right over my head. I did not get it.
Wow, you're so pure.
Yeah.
They make a pun in the movie. In the movie, there's a pun on it.
Maybe you have to have seen like more James Bond movies to know that like pretty much every one of them has a name like that.
I knew that, but like for some reason I thought they skipped over it on this.
Yeah, it's Moneypenny, right?
Yeah.
Well, Natalia was more grounded, but this is, okay, I'll say this, very much less campy than I expected. Not too crazy gadgets. The laser from the watch was there. And Sean Ben, no spoilers anymore, but Sean Ben shows up, and I'm like, this guy's not going to die. He's coming back. And then he's going to die again. Because he had to kill him twice.
That was actually a surprise.
It's Sean Bean, right? It's not even Sean Ben. I just went Sean Ben.
It's like, isn't it Sean Bean?
It is Sean Bean.
Just go with it.
Yeah, and the opening. Oh, I love the opening.
How much of the opening?
Dam.
How much of the
Just the coming down the dam, and I was like, this is such a non-James Bond opening. Like there's no music, it's quiet, and he just like in the quiet just dives down.
He's freaking running.
And he does I think bungee jumping was big then, so he just does a bungee jump off.
Yeah, if I remember reading right, I think that was at least at the time. I don't know if it's changed, but I think at the time that was the like longest or farthest down bungee jump ever.
Oh, it's a record?
I think if I read it right, at least at the time, I don't know if it still is.
Is that the Hoover Dam?
Well, I don't know what dam it was. It was just a record for bungee jumps. That's all I know.
I didn't know anything about that. I knew it was a bungee. I know he bungee jumped off, but I didn't realize that was actually real, because some of it, like the special effects in the movie, were interesting.
Well, I also read that this was the first James Bond movie that actually used CGI. Where he walks out and does the little bullet opening and like the little black circle thing. This was the first time they used CGI for it instead of some kind of like practical prop.
Okay, because they always have like, what is it, the rifle bore with the rifling. That's what that, like a lot of people don't know that, but that's actually rifling.
Yeah.
And so, they always turns, and sometimes he shoots, sometimes he doesn't, but it's always there. Sometimes there's blood, sometimes there's not.
Yeah.
So, but that whole thing has always been a James Bond thing, which is cool.
You speaking about the campiness or the lack of is interesting, because to me it did feel kind of campy. But like what I think what is actually probably happening is that we were in this like transition period
Mm-hmm.
to a different James Bond generation, and Pierce Brosnan was just kind of caught in the middle of it, where they're trying to like transition from the campiness to something more serious now, and they probably fully transitioned to that by like Daniel Craig, right?
Yeah,
Well-
because M is like, I think that was their nod to the cultural, social thing happening around. Because M is pretty much like, to me, you're a misogynistic dinosaur, and I can't wait to be done with you, right?
And of course, they put Dame Judi Dench in
Yeah.
the role, which lends so much gravitas.
Yeah.
They were like,
Funny about that, I also read that apparently someone who played
The old Moneypenny.
the old
Yeah,
Moneypenny,
yeah.
was actually trying to have it be that she was M,
Mm-hmm.
which would have made sense with her being M because she was Moneypenny, but that obviously didn't happen.
They were like, we will go with the dame.
yeah, we'll go with Judi Dench.
Was she a dame at the time though?
No, she was not.
No.
That was later, but yeah, I still just I respect the title, so I will say it.
Yeah. So okay, the thing I think I will say I hated the most about this movie was that car chase scene near the beginning of it. In particular, the music that they had playing during that car chase scene with the Ferrari and the
Oh my god.
the Aston Martin.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh god, it was like grating to my ears. It was so bad, and like it felt like the car chase was too long, and like
Yeah.
misogynistic as well. The way he was talking.
I didn't get any of the. Funny you say it. Mission Impossible 2 has a car chase like that with the guy and the girl, but I didn't get any of the big risk and the big like car chase. A fun race. It's not a car chase. It's a fun race.
Yeah.
It's always going to be, suddenly someone's going to show up. Someone has to give in for the other and like get in the front, right? It's a bunch of bicyclists, and then they make a joke of it, of like they trip and fall.
Yeah, like
And
why are you
everyone
being so rude to the bicyclist?
Dude, you've been stuck behind bicyclists.
I-
We all know why they're being rude to bicyclists, even in the 90s.
I've almost run over bicyclists because they are like, share the road. Okay, that's fine. Observe the actual rules of the road. You know, like when I'm coming this way on a green light and you're going this way and you have a red light, freaking stop, because when you don't, I almost run you over.
You just turn Jeremy Clarkson.
But that's another
Yeah.
thing.
Just turn into
Yeah, I
Jeremy
know.
Clarkson.
I was like, I was okay with making
See-
fun of the bicycles.
Even the BMW M3 is so little because that car was, sorry, the Z.
The Z4.
Z4
Or was it
so
a Z3?
new.
I don't know.
Z3 so new. That's why they didn't even use it.
Because it's the
like,
only one
barely.
they had.
Barely. It's like, yeah, that was like the only thing of it that existed was that in that.
Yeah, it
model.
was like still like a prototype or a first run or something like that. So they couldn't actually do any modifications or gadgets with it because they couldn't damage it.
Oh, so
is that how
he
that
tried to like
was?
point out rockets or something. I never saw rockets in it.
Yeah,
It'd
well,
be
the
funny
guy,
if
the
was
guy,
just implied.
Yeah.
well, they had it at the end of the movie where the U.S. agent guy got in it and drove off. He
Yeah.
said, "Hey, don't press any buttons in the car."
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and they never showed
They never
any of
showed
the
the
fun.
buttons?
They
Yep.
never showed any
Yeah.
of the fun stuff.
Yeah,
that-
because they got it like really late in production, so they actually didn't have time to do anything to it anyway.
That's great.
See, I didn't mind the car. I do agree that scene went on way too long. In fact, actually, I think that was a theme with the whole movie for me.
But the
It
music
felt
during
like
that scene, it didn't like
didn't-
it wasn't like nails on a chalkboard to you.
Didn't
That's the
bother
worst
me,
part of
and
that
my
chase
wi-
scene for you?
My wife watched it
Not
too.
the I'm
Neither one of
flirting with
us
a woman in
cared
the
about
seat,
it.
then I'm going to flirt with the woman in the car over here, and then when she drives away, I'm going to have sex with the woman in the seat.
Oh no, that was weird. That was weird too. But like, yeah.
I think it's
Sorry,
like they
you're-
were like, oh shit, this is still a Bond movie. Let's put
Right.
it's
yeah.
like, oh, we're gonna head to the climax. Let's put them in a bikini and on the beach first. Like, it's like, we're gonna do this. It's like,
Appropriate
no,
word
this
choice.
is still a Bond movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, speaking of climax, I also was reading and had never noticed this before. Apparently, this is the only Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie that doesn't have the last scene with him laying on top of a woman.
Okay, interesting.
Oh, jeez.
But I'm sorry, I talked over you, sir. What were you saying?
Yeah, the thing you hated about the car chase.
Oh, just it was the theme of the movie for me. Is almost
Oh,
every single
too
scene
long.
drug on way longer than it really needed to. They either needed to insert more action, somewhere, do something with the gadgets, maybe actually do something fun with the Aston Martin, anything. because a lot of the scenes just kind of drug and drag. And I didn't remember that, Chris. I only saw this movie once. So this is kind of like, and that was not too long after it came out. So this is not quite watching it brand new, but it was like, I was okay with it. But yeah, the theme of the movie for me, or at least the main detractor for me, sorry, not theme, the detractor for it was just that everything just felt like it went on a little too long. And that car chase scene, it just started with that.
Yeah.
I was like going, yeah, I get it. You're flirting with this chick, and it doesn't need to go on for 10 minutes with a 45-second long payoff joke with bicyclists falling over. Like, you just didn't need that.
Well, there's probably a reason behind some of that too. So apparently I went deep on behind the scenes stuff because I have another little tidbit here.
Do it.
So apparently several changes had to be made to the actual script and everything while they were filming the movie and during production, because this movie came out in what was it, 95?
Yeah.
True Lies came out in 94. So it came out while they were filming this movie, and apparently the plot was virtually identical.
Oh no.
So on the fly,
So
they're
they
having to
had
change stuff.
They had terrorists stealing a nuclear bomb and then gonna detonate it. Like that was the plot of GoldenEye originally, instead of the EMP
Well, they did say
weapon.
that the GoldenEye satellites were actually nuclear.
Yeah.
In space.
Well, I assume they're nuclear.
Oh, that makes
like nuclear
so much-
powered.
Dude,
Maybe
that
it
makes so
was a
much
bomb at some
sense
point.
because I thought the weapon was so underwhelming. I was like,
Yeah.
that's it.
It
an
also
EMP.
it also is a one-time use.
Yeah, one time use.
Like,
Yeah,
who
right?
makes that? Like, who puts something like that up in space and it's a one-time? And they blew up their own facility with it once. Like, not even a good demonstration to
All of it to oh, we're
Anywhere.
gonna rob banks in the end was the big answer, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
what? That's,
Like I said, they were just
I was
last minute trying to figure out
that
what the
makes so
story
much
is.
sense because the
Yeah.
weapon was so underwhelming. I'm sure there were like nuclear bombs that could drop from the sky, and that is obviously a lot more threatening. It's just an EMP, and they're like, it will send you back to the Stone Age. I'm like, I'm sure they'll figure out how to reboot.
I love how an
think it'll be
EMP
fine.
made everything explode.
Yeah,
too.
I was like, where's the explosions? Like that whole
it
that
was
whole facility in the
95.
beginning exploding, and just like all the electricity everywhere, just causing everything to short circuit and just catch on fire was hilarious.
The satellite view of Natalia escaping from that exploded thing and all that was probably new for that time, I think. Of like, hey, we're being watched. Was like, oh, look, that's the person that's walking out. Was also very new, I think.
Well, speaking about new tech, how do you think they handled the internet and chat in this movie?
I'll admit I don't remember seeing what they did with the internet, because several times I found myself playing with my phone and had to be like, no, put it back down, watch the movie.
Whenever the Boris guy showed up
Yeah.
with like, send a spike.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember
Types it
that.
out in a big old
I
search
can-
box.
yeah.
Basically.
I remember
And
that.
it's like hopping around. And so I will admire tech that is fun for their time, because internet at that time was like you could list what was there and easily look up, so it wasn't that big. But the whole send spike and this, where they truly dumbed it down, I think it just does not age well at all.
No.
Yeah, I could
But
go to any
when you're
command
tracing
terminal and just
something, it
stick
doesn't
with
show a little map with a little like Indiana Jones thing going around the world.
Yeah.
The what about the instant messenger portion?
Oh, that was great. I mean, it was obviously crazy fake, but like Boris's little caricature was.
I thought that was one of the most real things
Really?
outside of his little caricature, and the only reason why I couldn't take that seriously is it just had too many colors.
Yeah. I
Other
mean,
than
yeah,
that, like
that's-
it would not surprise
Well, at
me.
least
Like
the
a little
instant message
AOL
wasn't
instant.
on an Excel spreadsheet, like a certain music video with
yeah,
Nelly in it.
yeah. I mean, there was at least a little bit of realism to it, but I think they made it too simple. It was like literally like a command prompt that they were somehow communicating with each other in, and then it had a.
If it is an
Picture of
obvious,
It was
Well,
an AI
if he-
thing. I tell
if he
AI
had-
send spike, and it does it all in the
Yeah.
background.
if
he
it
had a
isn't
little-
obvious, we're all engineers.
Well, not all of us.
He
I
runs-
tell the engineers what to do.
Was
Yeah.
one of them's a cat herder for engineers.
Don't you have a computer science degree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I
there we
did
go.
graduate with a software development degree,
Yeah.
but that's not what I do by trade.
Mhm.
So, this overall story, I'll say, was actually good forgetting the execution of like, here's a burned spy, who's like, the Cold War is over. We're not doing the spy shit anymore as much. So he's getting out of and he decides, hey, I'm gonna go to the dark side and just make money because they're gonna screw me over anyway. So Sean Bean, Bean's story, the bad guy story, is actually, I thought, was like good arc of like, is he played cartoony and all? Yes, he got like, I thought he started really good and then it got a little too cartoony.
I have a question for that when you're done.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Sean Bean at the end,
Mhm.
why was he so mad at 007 for leaving him and changing the timer? Was it just because he changed it from 6 minutes to 3 minutes and Sean Bean's plan got effed up, even though he was going to betray Bond, but the way
he was going to get away without scars.
The way he acted was just like James Bond did him dirty.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
it's all your
and I'm
fault.
like, it's like, dude, he didn't
world.
know. He didn't know. Like, this wasn't like something that he planned to
two
screw
things.
him over. And so I just thought that was funny.
You got two answers.
Okay.
One, Bond, the new Bond is the Bond is the personification of all that is of like MI5 and everything. So he's looking at all of that through him because he's the one there screwing him up. Two, he's just mad because he was like, if I didn't get these scars, I would have gotten with on the top. Sorry, on your top.
I don't think you want to get with on the top.
No.
She was
she was into some stuff.
I have an addendum to that, not being actually playful. I don't know if they didn't think about this, or maybe it's like a deleted scene that was never filmed. But what if you look at it from the aspect of, at the beginning of the film, Sean Bean's character wasn't actually betraying Bond, and as Bond took off, he was actually able to fight his way out and was trying to escape himself. But since the bombs were reset for 3 minutes, he got hurt.
But Bond saw him get shot and killed. Like, he was playing dead. He was playing dead.
He did.
So yeah, he was right in front of him, shot, killed him.
And that's why I'm like,
and that's why I'm like, when you said cartoony, I was like, oh man, even everything about him was cartoony because he's pissed off at him.
Oh,
it's like he didn't even know he was like, if he even knew you were alive, he would have never done it. Like, he did that for himself.
Yeah. Yeah. He does say later that he would have asked Bond to join him, but he just knew that Bond was never gonna treasure the country.
True.
The one thing that irritated me so many
Country.
times in the movie, the first time it happens is Sean Bean's left dead down there. Bond's escaping, and he's he's on a bike chasing the airplane. For some reason, the Russian general is like,
it's like,
don't
he's
shoot
gonna
at
die.
him. He's gonna die
he'll
anyway.
die.
It's like,
Yeah.
what? What I feel like
they'd gone over budget at that point, didn't have enough for special effects to shoot the guns.
I was about to say, is this another trivia?
No.
Okay,
right.
real quick. Speaking of Mission Impossible, though, and the Sean Bean thing,
There might have been.
how do you think they handled the twist with Sean Bean being the ultimate bad guy? Do you think that it was relatively surprising? Like,
no, I knew it.
because
not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
I was surprised, and in fact, I think they handled the twist much better in this movie than they did in Mission Impossible.
That meeting was cool, like in this field of like all this fallen Cold War, relics.
It was like Soviet music coming in.
Yeah,
like,
and then he shows up there. And then again, they do the stupid thing of like, let's kill Bond in an elaborate way. Of like, he will be in the helicopter, and we will put the eject button right next to his head.
Dude, okay, I wanted to talk about that scene. Everything about that scene is wrong and dumb. Literally.
First of all,
everything.
she's so grating as she's calling him to get up, and I'm like,
Oh my
holy
god,
shit,
yes.
she's
I was
yelling
like,
stuff.
shut up.
Yeah.
Is it better or worse though than of the older movies when Bond was strapped to a table with a laser beam that was going to take about 90 minutes to
that's-
slowly creep
That's
up
the
and
thing.
cut him in
Like
half?
like I mentioned earlier, it's like this in between state
Of the campy
of like
to that,
the
yeah.
campy to the modern.
You guys were talking about this, but there was the Timothy Dalton Bonds, Bond era, and that one was seen as almost no fun.
Oh, the dark Bond.
He was
Yeah,
too
yeah.
serious. License to Kill and stuff like that. Like, lots of people died. There was basically no jokes, nothing like that. And GoldenEye was the first attempt at kind of leaning it back back to an earlier
okay,
era, and then the later movies, in my opinion, I think Tomorrow Never Dies I think that was the good one, but there's another one that is just like, and then the other one is just like jumps the shark, like everything. They lean way too heavy into it, and that killed the whole franchise.
Oh, the world is not enough.
Yeah.
That was so bad.
I remember seeing that in theater and just thinking that was like that was a terrible movie. But
well, GoldenEye was also, if I remember reading right, the first James Bond movie that wasn't based on one of the Ian Fleming books.
Oh yeah,
I found that that surprised me. I actually went to go look up which Ian Fleming book it was based on because they're not always the same title. Yeah. And I was like, no, this is totally original creation for the James Bond universe. I was like, oh,
fun thing.
That's neat.
Point was the guy who made this also made Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He did.
Okay. The
huge difference.
He launched the next Bond as well.
Yeah. So he started the Pierce Brosnan era and the
learned
Daniel
from
Craig.
his mistakes and then did the next one.
Yeah, and Casino Royale was fantastic. So
Casino Royale is to me is like Bond is messy. He's not Bond yet. You know, his first kill is not smooth. It's like a struggle for him to kill one guy, and he makes mistakes all over the place. Nothing. He's still smooth, but he's just making mistakes left and right. And he doesn't do
charismatic but messy.
Yeah. So, but how did you find Pierce Brosnan? I thought he was actually like very suave.
Dude, I think
he's totally
Pierce
Bond.
Brosnan is
so
James Bond I grew up on. So
Yeah.
that's my James Bond.
my wife was like, oh.
Because
she hadn't seen Pierce Brosnan, I think, because I think he was like 42, 43 or something like that in this movie and whatnot. So he's still young enough to like have his like all his looks pretty much, and he's a handsome. Even today, he's a handsome man.
Well, apparently, this wasn't like the first time he was potentially up for James Bond.
Yeah.
Was it Chris Columbus? I think it is. I think it's who the director was. Apparently, it recommended him for James Bond, and then he got like overlooked in the interim between
he was doing
Timothy Dalton was
because there was like a big gap there.
Yeah.
But then he was filming Mrs. Doubtfire, which I think was Chris Columbus who actually directed that. And I guess they decided to start looking for James Bond again and hit him up, and he recommended Pierce.
I liked him in Mrs. Doubtfire, so that tracks.
In the beginning, I think he was even before, I think around when Timothy Dalton was picked, was when they wanted him. But he was doing, I think, Remington Steele or whatever.
Oh,
was
yeah,
the show.
yeah. I forgot
that
he was
was pretty much
Steele,
a Bond kind of show that he was doing. And they were like, well, he's naturally fits for this. But I think he was contractually not available. And so they went with Timothy. And then they had a huge gap of 6 years where they had like money problems, lawsuits, other things. And then they went back to Dalton, and he said, well, I'll do one. And they were like, no, we want you to do like 4.
Like
yeah. He's like, I'm too old for this shit. They're like, okay, let's find our next guy.
So I have to ask if anybody noticed the scene with Bond in that guy's club and that really, really bad female singer.
Oh, that was.
I know who that is.
That was hilarious.
You know who it is, right?
That's Maggie. What's her name? Sorry.
Minnie Driver.
Minnie Driver.
That was Minnie Driver.
Yeah.
I was like, what the what? No. And I immediately pulled IMDb. That's Minnie Driver.
That was not.
I
even know what. Like, I still have a mental image of that chick.
Is this before or after the Good Will Hunting?
Ooh,
I think it's before.
No, this would be before. Good Will Hunting would be after this.
Would be after this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think she didn't hit it big then.
That was hilarious. That was a hilarious scene. I thought.
But yeah, like it made me just like all of a sudden like grab my phone. I'm like, I swear. Yep.
I mean, this movie had some scenes that were pretty great.
Oh yeah,
I think the train scene. The train scene was great. That scene in the club was great. I also liked the tank car chase. That was free with the dude in the back just freaking swigging. He looked, oh god, it's still coming for me.
The what was the iconic where he like bangs and then he just adjusts.
I saw that.
He
I was
just
like,
adjusts
really?
his tie and then just keeps driving with the tank.
And it was fast.
Yeah.
I mean,
tanks are pretty.
Tanks are pretty fast.
They're faster than you think they are, but that tank was just like way bigger than most tanks.
Freaking went through a building.
And it was definitely a real tank that was doing real stuff. You could tell it wasn't like a car with the body on it or something. It was like a real tank.
But you could tell that the buildings it was literally crashing through were not real buildings. That for sure was not
I
the
think
best.
that was actually filmed in London, if I remember reading right.
This is made in London and Russia. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the tank scenes weren't filmed in Russia, from what I read, but they did film some scenes in Russia, and if I remember reading right, this was the first movie that actually got to film in Russia, because back when it was the Soviet Union, like they didn't even let American movies over there. Period. So there was no filming over there at all. But once the whole Cold War stuff ended and this happened, this was one of the first, if not the first, that had a couple scenes filmed in, I think it was in Moscow, if I recall.
Okay, so before we take too long on this, I do want to also just quickly bring up the video game. I know y'all haven't played it. Me and Monaghan, we've played it. And it was
probably played it once back when I was like 11.
For me, it was like an essential part of my childhood.
Oh, damn.
Like
I didn't have an
remember,
N64.
I remember multiplayer sessions with my friends, like being a bonding experience for me. Like it was the game to play. And like watching the movie for the first time for this podcast, I'm like, wow, they actually recreated some of those scenes like really well.
The game, but the
in
whole
video game.
dam, like in both the N64 game and then the reboot from 2010 on the PS3, 360, and Wii, they all have that dam scene.
Yeah.
Like it's actually it's not like movie accurate because it's video game, like it's video games, but like everything that they had to go through in the movie is in those games. It was like that was pretty good. I was pretty impressed with that actually, because I did not know that, because I had actually only played multiplayer back in the day with a few friends.
That's what you did.
And that's all I ever did. I never played the single player until recently.
Yeah.
And they did a good job in the single player recreating that.
No, tell me more. What is multiplayer? Just 4 split screens?
Yep. Yes. Well, it's you had to play it on a single TV, right? And you had up to 4 players.
And this is
split screen.
Era of the CRT,
little tiny little like 24-inch box.
You're lucky if you had a 21-inch 4x3 CRT.
In the multiplayer games, the way they played out, you basically had to hide, right? To really be good, you had to hide. And the funny thing is...
Oh, you're a camper.
Well, no.
Listen to this little bitch. Look at this little bitch right here, camping in the corner.
It's literally...
You had to hide if you had to be good.
No, that is how it was built to be played.
I'm crouched in the corner, gonna shoot people.
If you let me talk.
I'm wearing a ghillie suit.
Yeah, he's got a ghillie suit.
That is how it was meant to be played. They had freaking tunnels and air vents and stuff you had to climb in. They had remote mines and proximity mines that you can set up. It was literally how you were supposed to play it. But the funny thing was, you're playing on the same screen. You just look over to the right or to the left or whatever. You can cheat your way, right?
Oh, the screen peeking.
Yeah, you just got to trust your friends aren't going to do that, but of course they'll do it.
I've seen people actually come up with like the cardboard thing, where it's like you have to be like this close to the TV. Some people probably went cross-eyed doing that, but
don't take this for gospel, but I want to say it was one of the like first multiplayer FPS like games out there. Yeah, on console. Out there. Yeah. Not including PC.
Yeah,
right?
PC definitely had a ton of them.
But I will say for console, I bet it was one of the first.
I think it was also one that had like you can move your gun vertically and horizontally.
It had actual 3D. Yeah, it wasn't like Doom style or Wolfenstein.
But I tell you,
aiming,
that was probably
they didn't have until Quake.
That was probably the worst part about that game, though, was the analog freaking aiming, because it wasn't that you would turn your character, it would turn the reticule on the screen. So you just have this reticule going all over your screen while you're trying to aim, and it was janky. I mean, but they were still trying to figure out.
So no
that
wonder
stuff.
you became a corner camper.
Oh my god! I was really good.
The truth
with the
comes
mines.
out.
I was really good with the remote.
Dude,
mines.
you're just describing a camping sniper kit. That's it. It's got proximity.
I was really good with this stuff you didn't need to aim with. You know, I just had to wait for somebody to walk through a door and I go click.
Hey, if I won, I won.
I go click.
I go click. That was your move.
If you ain't first, you're last. Yeah, I mean, I would say if we were going to be judging this based off of the game alone, or even just like including the game as part of the judging, which I'm not going to do, I'm going to base it on the movie, there was no way I would vote nostalgia on it, because that game was so good. In fact, just recently, this week, I think, they inducted it into the Video Game Hall of Fame. I don't know if you saw that. But yeah,
I don't think it holds up as a video game very well today. However, its impact from back then with the multiplayer specifically, but even just an FPS game on console telling the story that it did with all the exploration. That was the one thing that I didn't know about, was like when I played the campaign through quite a bit, and there's a ton of exploration and stuff you have to figure out. And as a kid of that era who was actually playing that would have been awesome. It didn't matter if some of it didn't make sense or if you had to retry over and over because some arbitrary thing they didn't tell you didn't do.
Well, and
and you had to play the whole damn level over, which pisses me off. But back then it wouldn't have mattered.
Y'all might not know this, but like the single player in each level that you went in that they called missions, you had objectives, and these objectives were not just like kill this guy, kill this guy, kill this guy. Like you had to like plant a mine, you had to defuse you had to do all these certain things that were like very specific, and it was so cool whenever you did it right.
In the dam, the first mission, you have to find the laboratory. You have to find it's like canisters or something, and you're supposed to blow those up, and you get these mines to blow them up, and then you have to do something else. And then you need to meet up with 006, and then you need to get out.
So it's basically the movie plot.
Yeah, yeah.
100% movie
plot.
Yeah, they took some liberties with some of them because there were definitely extra things in that weren't in the movie. But
the first time I played it, I found the laboratory and I got out, but I failed the mission because I didn't find 006 and I didn't blow up the things, and I didn't realize I had to press start and actually get the mission objectives and then make sure I did those objectives. So yeah, so it's actually for a game of that era, pretty good.
Games were tough back then.
Pretty good. I wouldn't even say it was tough. It just like you just needed to know that.
Yeah,
and it was pretty cool. And then I played
Most
the
games
Wii.
won't let you like even finish the level until you've done what you're supposed to.
And then I played the Wii version, which also came out on 360 and PS3, which is a reboot, which uses Daniel Craig instead of Pierce Brosnan. And it's actually him. It's his voice and everything.
Do you know why? Do you happen to know why?
Licensing rights. They had rights to Daniel Craig. Pierce Brosnan, they would have had to pay.
Oh, they didn't want to pay him again.
Basically,
okay.
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So I'm assuming, when Daniel Craig signed on, he signed off on all image rights for the
rights, all that stuff, and also he did the voice work for it, which was pretty much canned and phoned in, but it was fine. They did not get Sean Bean though. They got Mr. Generic Dude, and it's definitely more Call of Duty, and it leads you by the nose through everything. It is way more cinematic, but it leads you by the nose through everything. There's no exploration. There's no potential failure. There's no potential fail state, anything like that. You just do what you do, which it was. It was more. It made more sense because in like the N64 game, you're just like standing at this damn entrance, like you're just standing there. But in the video game, it's him and 006 on top of this thing, and then they both come down, and then they both go after like all the guys in the dam together. So it's more cinematic and it makes more sense. However, I would actually say the original is more fun to play.
Right.
Yeah, I would think you'd want something like a happy medium between those two.
Yeah.
Like
just
being like led by the hand all the way through stuff, like that makes it boring. You want that exploration, but at the same time, like if I get to the end and exit and you're like fail, I'm like, what? Yep. Like that would annoy the shit out of me.
Yeah, and it did. That actually annoyed me so much the first time that I did that. I was like going, okay, I'm done with this for just a little while. But then I'm like going, that's dumb. And then I didn't realize to go in and how to check the objectives. And I'm like, oh, that makes more sense now. So, and I remember seeing those, and I could have done that. So then the next time I did it, it was easy. And then
nostalgia for me is that back in the day, to even know what to do in the game was like,
that was a chore.
It's like
yeah.
Let me hit all the keyboard buttons, and then like suddenly a menu opens, and you're like, "What the heck is this?" Like, they wouldn't just tell you anything.
I'm a lifelong Final Fantasy player, so including all the originals. So I know about that so much. Like you don't know what the hell you're doing half the time.
Or read the book.
You can accidentally park your vehicle in those early games across the continent, like clear across the world. You will never find it again unless you spend hours searching. Yeah, you don't get that. You don't get that in a game like that. Okay.
Last thing I want to say about the video game, and then we need to get to voting.
Yep.
Was I thought it was just crazy how watching the movie, I was very disappointed with the music. I mean, you get the main James Bond theme, and that's classic. That's awesome. But the rest of it was A lot of it was atmospheric, really. But then the video games music was just a banger, man. Like the pause menu music.
100% agree. The music in the games went hard.
Yeah.
And the movie just was kind of silent.
Yeah, it was
You
weird.
barely
to
got
see
the
that.
Bond theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like that. There'd be like fight scenes and action scenes where you usually have like some kind of like music going along with it, and it's just stark nothing.
Yeah.
I think that was they're trying to ground it down, maybe.
Maybe. All right, let's get to voting. So, since I'm the host, my vote's not going to matter, but I will say my vote for this one, based solely on the movie, is going to be nostalgia. So, first up, let me go with Jeffrey.
This one was very easy for me to vote on and very difficult for me to watch. I've always disliked this movie. I've never enjoyed it. When it first came out, I was just young enough because it came out and I was 10 or no, 11 or 12 at the time, and I was a little young for James Bond, and even so, I didn't care for this one at all. And even as I get older, I've just hated it. Tomorrow Never Dies. That's my James Bond movie. I love Tomorrow Never Dies.
It's a good one.
So, I mean, this one, like, it's hard to even say nostalgia. Like, I just hate this movie. But since it's either cool or nostalgia, I will say nostalgia.
All right. Let's go with Monaghan over here.
All right, so I'm probably not going to be a dissenter among the opinions here. I think I also agree that this movie is entirely nostalgia. I watched it back in the day, and I remember watching it actually at home. I did not see it in theaters. I watched it probably VHS or whatever we had back then, and it was kind of boring. I remember being just kind of boring, and I didn't really love it all that much. I remember actually watching the Timothy Dalton ones and liking those, even though I know those aren't as fondly remembered. I was way more entertained by those than GoldenEye. I did like the overall like the pieces of it. Like there's certain scenes that are really good in it, so I want to like it, but I absolutely just don't. And then on the rewatch, okay, it pretty much just reaffirmed what I knew when I was much younger. And yeah, purely nostalgia. Not the best. Would love to see it remade, honestly, but I am.
Ooh, that's
I would not
interesting angle.
I would not mind seeing it remade. And maybe get rid of like the whole helicopter ejection execution scene that was so dumb. Actually, every
when they
scene
could have just shot him in the head. Left.
And then they kept bringing her with them. When it was like you wanted her dead. Why don't you just shoot her? Like there's all kinds of just narrative stuff like that that just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, nostalgia for me.
Okay, Andy, are we gonna go for a full agreement here, or what's your take?
The remake part. I think they did, and that's what Skyfall is.
Oh.
It is about another 00 agent gone bad, gone rogue, and it's in this movie they do that where it's like Sean Bean is like, well, I know all your tricks because we're both saved we're both trained from the same thing, and we're both gonna. I know what your watch will do, and I know what this will do. Well, he didn't know about the pen grenade,
but he was a Cossack.
Yeah, Leon's Cossack.
I had to explain that to my wife, like the whole like backstory, because they don't really explain a lot of that. Why there's a lot of bad blood there, but
yeah. And so Skyfall, I feel, is like a more mature version of what happens if one of the agents goes rogue and then becomes the bad guy running the things. I want nostalgia because I knew this was a beloved movie. And I'm so surprised on like, but what is so cool about it? Like I think
it's entirely from the games.
I'm like,
what's cool about it is it introduces Pierce Brosnan so that he can do Tomorrow Never Dies.
I'm thinking in that time, maybe because of the previous movies and what followed, maybe later or whatever, people thought this was like really great. The core plot is pretty good.
So an EMP laser from space.
Yeah, Natalia, played by her, is
everybody loves those god lasers.
She has more purpose in the story and has actual, things that she does. She actually does stuff and all that. So she isn't just a dumb.
She has agency.
Yeah, she has agency, and she isn't just like a dumb Bond girl.
Not there to wear a dress.
They had a bad Bond girl, I guess. That's what Famke Jensen is, and she even goes on to become. Phoenix in X-Men, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jean Grey.
She was
Jean Grey.
Before she does play Till Phoenix version, right? I think.
Yeah, in the third movie.
Phoenix, but yeah. So she was, I mean, she was over the top, but I still bought
She
her.
was over the top.
She
On
was-
a top.
I
was
actually-
over
On
the
a top
top.
was over the top.
I actually loved her
Yeah,
just
I
because
thought I
she
bought her
went
character.
all in
Yeah,
on
she
it. Like,
was like, I'm gonna ham it up. Like, I'm gonna really do this to be this psychotic killer.
I'm just
And I
gonna
was
be
like,
evil, pure evil.
Yeah.
like, and she had the face for it, the smile, like when she was just like, oh, like, you know, people are dying, and she's just like getting off on it.
Yeah.
Just like you had way too much fun with that role.
So yeah, so I think I see what people liked. There are bits and parts in individual parts. They're like, you're like, hey, that's good. I think it just together, it didn't, to me, like, didn't fit that well. There were just, maybe it's the pacing, maybe it's the editing, but I didn't feel like it was that great.
I think everybody does like Pierce Brosnan as Bond.
Yes.
I think that helps a lot. And then the video game. I think a lot of that makes everybody think that the movie's better than it was, really.
Yeah.
And I don't think
I
it's
mean,
a good
I'll
movie.
100%
You probably got
say-
it exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. The best part of the movie is Pierce Brosnan. I saw him,
Mm.
and he just looked good in the suit. He looked good jumping over things in the suit, and he had very coolness about, like, in scenarios where that's the Bond, right? Like, no matter how bad it gets, he's like, I'll get out. Like, that's the kind of, he has that confidence, and
Just
I felt
trust
like
me.
he had it. Yeah. So I thought he was pretty good, and he played the role well. So yeah, but still nostalgia for me. I didn't like.
Well, there you have it. All four
Lord.
of us voting nostalgia on this one. Verdict on GoldenEye. Some bright spots,
Mhm.
good things about it, but overall just didn't come together. What do y'all think? Tell us in the comments. And until next time, see ya.
Later.
See ya.